Welcome back to the Austin Mortgage Report with John Schutze on Talk 1370. Have a question for John? You can reach him by calling 512-920-2891. Once again, here's John.
And welcome back to the show. I'm John Schutze. I've got Eric and Joyce Peterson with Kopa Real Estate joining me today in the studio.
Hey, John.
Hey.
Thanks for having us.
So it's been a great show. I'll tell you, if you are just tuning in, you're going to want to go to Austin Mortgage Report in a couple of days when we have this show back up, or a replay of the show, because it's a lot of very, very valuable information. I'll tell you, I talked to a lot of folks in our industry, and there's been a few things here tonight that I hadn't heard before. So that's why I wanted to have you in the show. You guys are very good.
I hope I'm right.
Well, you are. You're very good, and you take this business very seriously. It shows. And I'm one. As a mortgage lender, looking at the real estate world and knowing a lot of agents, I've seen some agents who do kind of have the opinion that it's just about price and just get it online, take a few pictures, and people are going to like it or not. And I've had agents that are like you guys that do a whole lot more than that, put a whole lot more thought into it, and literally boots in the ground, marketing this property to the neighbors in Austin, really,
right,
and anyone online as well. And I think I'm really leaning pretty strongly to the fact that what you guys do really makes a difference. It helps folks get a little better price for their home, I think, because there's a huge difference between getting one offer after the home's set on the market for a week and getting multiple offers, the second or third day it's been on the market. There's a huge difference in the price you're going to get, and that's where you really are building your value. A lot of people think it's not worth the commission.
Right.
I'm telling you, hiring you guys is. I'm sure of that.
Yep. I definitely think so, John. And people always have to think about how much they're netting out of their house and not just what things are costing. But even apart from that, most of the time you look at things even just like photography, and somebody, if they've gone in and just taken their pictures with their iPhone and say, well, it's good enough.
Yeah.
And I'll have people tell me their stories, and they'll say, oh, I can't believe my neighbors, did you see their pictures online? And I look at it and think, I always say, well, the consumer made that choice also. They had to look at that and say, well, because they're really, in most cases, choosing between two choices that are the same cost. And they're deciding to go with what you had described.
You mean if you two different listing agents?
Two different listing agents, let's say, and I don't necessarily want to be bad-mouthing other realtors too much,
right,
but just talking about like what we offer. And I could show you differences between properties that expired off the market, and then we took new professional photography with lighting, and it makes the world of difference.
Right.
And
well, you think about how people shop for homes, and it used to be that you drove around. I remember my mother was an agent growing up, and she would do previewing. She would spend a half a day. So a buyer said, I want to buy in this neighborhood. She would go the day before and preview all the homes, and then come back to the buyer and say, okay, I've already ruled out these. I've narrowed these down to 3 or 4. And you go look at those in person.
Yeah.
Today is a little different. It starts online, and you may only see one house because you're going to go online and find all that, and you go look at that one house. So the pictures are what led you there.
It did, and I'll tell you, I've sold houses to buyers who the buyers did not consider the house because the pictures are so bad. But I could tell because I can sort of look through that and tell by the floor plan, or maybe even go in to check it out in person, like you're saying, and this is really worth looking at. But
it might even play to the advantage if you have a house with bad pictures. It's really kind of a good house.
Yeah.
Maybe you can sneak in there and because no one else sees what you see.
I absolutely. I think that's a big part of it. I just fundamentally I don't understand why if you're presented with great options, why you wouldn't pick that over.
Right. When you're hiring a listing agent.
Right. So, but
well, I think you're right. And the other thing is, I think you go look, even if you go look at the house and you're thinking about making an offer, you go back online and look at it again.
Sure.
And you're looking at those pictures, and you're trying to decide, should we make an offer or not? I mean, so I could just see it. I recently went through a transaction myself, and so I'm really have just come out of being in the thick of it, and I see things through a consumer's eyes, and what you guys are doing is really great. Again, our number here is 512-920-ATX1, or go to Austin Mortgage Report to reach out, and I'd love to get you guys in touch with Eric or Joyce Peterson here with Kopa Real Estate. What else is going on out there that you're seeing that folks should know about?
Well, we talked about, let's talk about something timely. So property taxes. Everybody's up in arms over property taxes. They've gone up. And
they have.
Just yesterday,
a lot.
They've gone up a lot, right? So don't blame me, right? We talk to people who are very angry at us because they see even the realtors who are making money off of the real estate market. It's our fault. But I went and protested our property taxes yesterday, and got a $30,000 reduction in our property taxes.
You?
So yeah, I felt pretty.
So did you walk in with a handful of 20s? Is that
right? Exactly. You know what? I hadn't thought about that strategy. I might start including that, though. That's good. But I probably know as much about protesting property taxes through trial and error as anybody who doesn't do it for a living.
Right.
And I do feel like I can offer people some insight into some of the things that are. We've talked about a couple other things in the show that the bell going off or aha moments, and there's a couple things that we can talk about that if somebody understands the process, they have a better chance of being successful in protesting their own property taxes. So the couple things that, or the big aha moment that I would tell you is that what most people don't know is that if you ask for the appraisal district to send you a list of the properties that they're going to use in your hearing, they're required to do so. It's part of the property tax code. And the biggest mistake that I see people do when they go to protest their property taxes is they'll call up a realtor and get comps, or the realtor will give them comps for the property, and then they run off to the tax office and say, here, look at these three here. Okay.
And they probably just ignore those because they've got their own.
They may or may not ignore them, but it didn't deal with the issue of those comps that the tax appraisal district is using, that appraiser.
It's kind of like knowing your competition.
Well, yeah.
It's kind of like your best defense is to know what they're using.
Yes.
And then use it back against them.
So this is my little jab that I have about other realtors, is I say, well, if a realtor told you that they'll just give you a bunch of comps and tell you to go off to the tax office, that you should never listen to them about negotiating about anything ever again. Because why would you play cards, let's say, and if I could play poker with you, John, and I could know what cards you had in your hand, and I chose not to know that information, why would I do that, right? Of course, it'd be easier for me to win. And so from just kind of a negotiating 101 standpoint here, you want to know all the information that they have. And so I'll just tell you the story of me protesting my taxes yesterday, because it kind of hits on all of these things. So I received, first off, I did my protest online, which I always recommend if you have the option of doing that, to do it online, because you can just protest your taxes in your pajamas at home, and it only takes a couple of minutes. So now I've been successful doing that in the past. This year, I wasn't successful, so I had to go to my informal hearing yesterday.
Oh, you mean you can actually protest and they can lower your value in some cases?
In some areas.
Not even going down there.
So, yeah, we're in Williamson County. They've been doing this for a couple of years now, and so it just makes it easier for everybody. And I have a client that we sold a house to. Actually, you did the loan for him last year, and he said he went online and got his reduced $25,000 or $30,000 also without ever having to leave his house. So think about that.
I honestly never knew. I hadn't heard that.
Well, it'll say on your tax paperwork when they send you the assessment, it'll say if you have an online protest available. But so you can do that. You don't risk anything, because worst thing that happens is they send you back something that denies your protest, but it'll also send you back a list of those properties that they use. So anyway, so I went into the office, and I knew from looking at the three comps that they used that one comp was 3.5 miles away, and it was no way comparable to mine. Another one was much more upgraded home, because of course I had the pictures, but it made it so easy for me because all I had to do was research 3 properties. So, and now I'm not trying to get a below market. I just wanted to get a fair price, okay? But I could also look at that and say, well, there was a house that was practically across the street that was the exact same square footage that they were not using. So I brought that one in. And then I had one other property that I brought in. They didn't allow me to use that. But so there were 2 properties left. they tried to bring in another property, okay, that was going to, again, raise up my value. And I told, well, you're not allowed to use that because you can only use the properties that you had sent me in advance. That's the property code.
You knew that.
And so he took off that one. So just kind of understanding the system and the rules, and so after that, it came down to the value that I was hoping for. And so the other best advice I could give somebody about protesting is just to be nice to the appraiser. Mm-hmm. You will get much further with them if you're nice than if you go in and start demanding things and telling them that you wouldn't even sell your house for that price or anything like that. So,
Yeah. Well, that's great information, Eric. I didn't know that. I've been doing this a long time.
Yeah.
So thanks for sharing that. I'll tell you, if anybody wants to get a hold of you, maybe talk to you about the value of their home, maybe talk about property, protesting their taxes, what's the best way?
Yeah, best way is either give me a call or a text at 512-791-7473. That's my direct line. I'd be happy to talk to anybody who wants to give me a call.
And your website's Kopa Real Estate, Kopa realestate.com, right?
That's right. Yep.
All right. Well, we're going to wrap the show up here. If you want to follow up or kind of follow us offline, just go to austinmortgagereport.com or Facebook. Look up Austin Mortgage Report. We're there. Thanks for joining us. We'll be back next Wednesday for another edition. Eric, Joyce, thanks again for coming in.
Hey, thanks for having us, John. We appreciate it.